Alright, sup boys? So it's been a while since I made a video on my Paladin channel, mostly because I've been trying to stay away from classic TBC as if it was the plague. But the whole, fresh classic survey thing is coming out. Here come the changes. And I was sitting in bed this morning. My wife is still sleeping, so I might have to talk a little more quiet than normal. I was sitting in bed thinking about what video to make on this subject, and uh, I found it really painful to think about Blizzard because Blizzard reminds me of like a Warhammer 40K, Mad Orc Doc, like the Orc Doctors, where they say of the Orc Doctors in that game that, yeah, you might go to them to get, your a new arm sewed on because they're orcs, but you'll wake up with a third arm attached to your back and half your brain missing with it being all cyborg stuff. And yeah, you'll get your arm, but then the doctor will have fun with you. And that's kind of how I feel about Blizzard messing with things in general. Is it's like, yeah, some of these things on the list we could argue might be a good thing. Which you can see Stay Safe tends to agree with certain things here. But at the same time, you letting Blizzard tinker with anything, you're going to have, for every one good result you're going to have, you're probably going to get two or three bad ones that are going to completely screw over things. Um, but then this finally got me around to a revelation that forced me to wake up this morning and actually make this damn video. And basically, that is that Blizzard seems to be extremely contradictory in its philosophy on making money with World of Warcraft. Now, especially the classic. Now, follow me on this real fast here, okay? So, a lot of players like myself were turned off by TBC. By the way, I'd love to see metrics on this if anybody has it. But a lot of players were turned off by TBC when they started doing the store mount thing, when they started doing the adding the boost to the game, when they started. I don't think too many people were too upset by pre-nerf raids coming out, like that kind of a thing. Maybe they were, but definitely they were upset by the whole boosting thing, and then the getting the mount. Did I mention that? Like the free epic mount when you subscribe to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so turned off by TBC, didn't really like it. They weren't telling us, like, hey, we're going to do things about the botting epidemic, which they allowed to run rampant in classic World of Warcraft. Didn't do anything about the ridiculous amount of gold that built up in classic World of Warcraft, which, I'm still not entirely sold that that's a bad thing or a good thing, but that's just me. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. But then a realization struck me like a lightning bolt. And that realization basically is that um, if Blizzard or lose, let's say Blizzard lost like 50,000 players, 50,000 people that could be playing TBC with all this nonsense. Like, not commutatively, but maybe I do mean commutatively. I mean like one thing killed it, but then you did like three one things. How easy would it have been for Blizzard to maintain that monetary income and get people to play their game if they just had two TBC servers that were no changes, no boosting, and no mounts, right? From buying the sub thing. One PVE, one PvP, and you begin to realize that that's a major contradiction. It's like saying Blizzard doesn't like money, right? So we justify a lot of their actions. They're like, oh, Blizzard's putting in the boosting because they're a company and they need money. Blizzard's putting in the store mount because they're a company and they need money. And we try to justify these things, but at the same time, they won't put in a single PvP server without any of that stuff and no changes, or a single PvE server without any of that stuff and no changes, which would make them money, right? So, I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much convinced that they do half of the things they do because they're egotistical. They want to believe that they can make a better game than the original game designers did, but at the same time, they have all of retail WoW to prove that they can do that, and they haven't managed to do that at all. So at this point, I just don't know what to think. So I wanted to make this video because it definitely looks like they're planning on making changes to Classic World of Warcraft for sure. And of course, they have that whole egotism thing going on at the same time. But again, how easy of a solution would it be for Blizzard to just be like, okay, we're going to have a bunch of servers where we make the changes that people want, but at the same time, we're going to keep some fresh just for people who really aren't into that kind of stuff. Like if Blizzard truly liked money, this would be the route that they would go. But if they end up just being straight up narcissistic, they're not going to do that. Well, let's just go through the survey real fast here, because maybe you guys are curious on my thoughts. Faster XP to level, the answer should be no. Like, it should be strongly disagree. And again, this is an issue I have with YouTubers in the WoW community in general, is that they think only about the game from the perspective of the type of gamer and what they're looking for in the game, right? So Stay Safe here is a PvPer, and he's a end game guy, right? So leveling isn't really his thing. But at the same time, if you look at like Cargos, imagine if Cargos did this checklist, he would probably put somewhere in the vicinity of strongly disagree on the subject of faster XP, because some people just love to level. And so it's like, how can I prioritize the enjoyment of the game for me at the expense of the enjoyment of the game of somebody else? And the answer is that the only possible way to do that, rationally speaking or moralistically speaking, even if you want to throw out that word, would be to have a server that is literally no changes. So that if you still like the slow leveling experience, here's the server for you, boo-boo. And if that existed, then I could totally justify, Stay Safe being like a strongly agree here. Now, do I personally think that they are? Like, as a paladin, it's like, I would say somewhat dislike. I wouldn't be too extreme on the whole subject. Just because, how do I put this? But I would, on a moral principle, I would just say strongly dislike, because if they're not going to have a fresh server. So the reason why the leveling experience in Classic World of Warcraft being so bad is such a good thing is it forces, like the default state of the mode of life leveling in Classic World of Warcraft is that it sucks, which means that it suddenly becomes a big deal to get weapon upgrades and to go to the dungeons and look for this item and look for that item, or as what we typically do as paladins, right, is we peruse the auction house for cheap upgrades at all times, because the game just sucks so much without doing everything you can to make the leveling experience better. And to be perfectly honest, that just makes it makes the game more engaging, if that makes any sense, while you're leveling, as opposed to, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have leveled characters to 60 through boosts. Lord knows I have. It's a completely different experience than like a fresh classic server launch. So I'm really looking forward to like a fresh... Oh, and that's another thing you could theoretically do, is like at fresh launch, the leveling experience is terrible. But then after, like, 3 months of the launch, then you have the amount of XP that it takes to level. That would at least be like a better middle ground. But at the same time, yeah, you're pissing in the Cheerios of the hardcore community and the leveling community, I think, in Classic World of Warcraft. So I do not like this. Maybe he talks about it. I haven't watched this video from Stay Safe. I don't really want to hear his mentally challenged reasoning on why he's going X and not Z. All right, Barbershop. Yeah, that really doesn't matter, to be perfectly honest. No world buffs and raids. I think I think we can all agree that no world buffs and raids is fine. Primarily because, personally, I thought it was hilarious watching human beings who would trivialize the content of the game they'd work so hard to trivialize the content of the game, and then complain that they could even do it. At the same time, I'm raiding with my guild, and it's like we don't even bother with world buffs unless we like desperately need them to get past a world boss for like the first not world boss, but like one boss in the raid for like a couple weeks, and everything was fine. Even then, it was like super easy. So I thought it was so funny to like they could not get the buff is what I'm trying to say. Like they so they definitely they've got a psychological problem there in my personal opinion. So it's one thing to go out of your way to get all the buffs and then to trivialize the content and then to complain about the content being trivialized. It's another thing entirely to be like I'm sick and tired of trivializing the content. And what's weird is Stay Safe knows this, right? Like when he was on Faralina, he was an unhappy boy, but then he moved on over to a PvE server where everyone was chill and you didn't need the world buffs, and suddenly he was having a lot of fun. So it's like I don't know, bro, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we can all agree. No world buffs. Increase debuff limit on raid bosses. Doesn't matter one way or the other. Like whatever. Black Marshall auction house. Black. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. And this is what Blizzard wants, right? Again, this is the whole Mad Orc or the Orc Doc thing from Warhammer 40k, right? So this is going to be half about what you want in the game as a player, and half of what Blizzard wants in the game as a player. And Blizzard strongly, definitely wants this in the game, so you better bet your butts you're probably going to get something like this, or store mounts or something like that. Original Alterac Valley design, more guards, slower matches, additional quests. See, Stay Safe says he doesn't like this, but on private servers we actually had the whole TBC, the slower TBC thing, and it's weird that the private server PvP community is split on the subject of the original Alterac Valley. Some of us love it. I'm in the camp who I love the original Alterac Valley with the goblin landmines everywhere and the guards all over the place. Other people hate it. Now, here's what's I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but you should just split the difference, to be honest. Like, the original Alterac Valley should be a thing that's out for a few months, and then it, or like for the first, like, month or probably 2 months of Battlegrounds just coming out in general. Just have it out there so people can enjoy it, and then after that, give them the normal Alterac Valley where, I don't know, it's a bit more of a slog fest, but no, I prefer one over the other. Some people hate the original. I'm not entirely sure why. Because the original Alterac Valley basically forces AV into it being the way that we remember in classic World of Warcraft, where rather than a match lasting like an hour, now the matches might last like 2 hours. Like the private server community was still pretty good at ending the matches despite all of that, but I mean, it's actually kind of a blast. Like, I love playing around the goblin landmines and all that stuff. It makes mages blinking on you and them trying to be mobile just hilarious. And it's great. I like it. More difficult raid bosses and dungeon encounters. This technically could be a bad thing. So again, I highly suggest that they need servers that are no change servers. But the reason why this could be a bad thing is that one of the great amazing things about classic World of Warcraft is that you can be a really bad WoW player and still feel like a god in classic World of Warcraft, right? Because the game difficulty is just so low. Is set so low, right? Let's see. What I think needs to be dealt with is the whole boosting meta, to be perfectly honest. I don't think anybody likes the boosting meta. I think as much as the community almost 100% doesn't like the world buffs and the raid thing, it's like either you're neutral to it or you just straight up don't like it. I think the whole boosting thing, the community is the same on that. Either you straight up don't like it or you're neutral on the subject. Boosting is terrible. Like, it is just absolutely criminally terrible to the game. But at the same time, I don't want to take away from the mages that their AoE fun, if that makes any sense. Even though you could argue that it really hurts the economy. There are some ways to do it, some ways not to do it. But again, you give Blizzard an inch, they'll take a mile. The two thoughts that I had in the subject are obviously you just nerf the amount of XP that people get when a high level is with them. When there's an extreme, when there's like a 10 level difference or more between the two of you, it should be like an exponential decrease in the amount of experience that people get. Very easy to solve that. If we wanted to nerf mages AoE farm for whatever reason, the easiest way to do that would be to make it so that if melee mobs have not physically damaged another human player or the pet of another human player for like 2 minutes, if they haven't damaged, like physically hurt the player for 2 minutes or another player for 2 minutes, they just start healing to full as if they were out of combat. Right? That would be the easiest way to do it, because there's like there's a few Paladin farms. There's the Sunken Temple farm for Paladin. There's the Bridge farm in ZG for Paladins and Mages, and then there's the Sunken Temple, Maradon farm for Mages, where there'll be like 10 minutes of gameplay time where the mobs literally haven't done any damage to player or pet. And that's kind of what makes them die and so easy to kill and the AoE farming viable. So yeah, if you just made it so that they heal to full, if they haven't, actually done any damage whatsoever to anybody for like 2 minutes, then it would be perfectly fine. And I don't think the mages would hate this, because it would just it would just force them to find new ways to farm, if that makes any sense. Like, they're still going to be the best AoE farmers in the game, period, hands down. They're still going to be money-making machines. As this Jurassic Park saying goes, life will find a way. In this case, it's mages will find a way. So I'm perfectly confident that they will have a blast trying to, quote, find a way in this new type of environment. All right, increase item drop rates. Somewhere around here, I remember there was, on the survey, there was them talking about the life cycle of the game. Like, do you want it to last 2 years? Do you want it to last 1.5? Only 1 year to going through the phases and blah, 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 blah. And I think the community is split, or should be split into two camps on this one. Because if you're a PvPer, you want the game to be slow. Right? There's no such thing as being raid logged for a PvPer, if that makes any sense. So the 2-year cycle that we had in Classic World of Warcraft was really bad for PvP, because how it felt was I had like maybe 2 weeks of being in full tier 2 and actually being able to PvP the way I want to PvP in phase 3, and then phase 4 comes out. And this cycle just keeps repeating itself. It was even worse with Nax, right? Like, you were nowhere near geared out for phase 2 by the time Nax is out, and it like, you can adjust as a player, like, by your item lists. Like, we're no longer talking about. In my opinion, if I was remaking videos, I wouldn't be talking about, okay, your phase 3 bis, and your phase 5 bis, and your phase 6 bis, and phase 2 bis, and all that kind of stuff. I would literally have to start saying your phase 2.5 bis, and your phase 3.5 bis, and your phase 5.5 bis. Yeah, there we go, because one's just ZG. Because you're never going to get all, unless you're the guild master, you're never going to get all the gear before the next phase comes out. So we start needing to think about it in terms of nothing's ever quite complete, which is really annoying. So personally, I think increasing item drop rate in if they're going to increase the speed at which the life cycle of World of Warcraft plays out, like, rather than 2 years, it's going to be like 1.5 years or even 1 year, then naturally you're going to have to increase the item drop rate to compensate. But at the same, which might be fun, I don't know. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, the PvEers are going to be all over this, right, typically. And you can pretty much see right here, based upon Stay Safe's answer, where he sits as a PvEer versus a PvPer. But PvPers should, yeah, they can love the idea that PvPers should hate the idea of a fast game cycle, but love the idea of getting more drop rates, whereas the PvEers will want both, kind of a thing. And the answer is, if you're going to err on the side of anything, either keep it the way it is, or make the life cycle even slower, or increase the drop rate if you're going to increase the life cycle of the game. But again, this is all pales in the shadow of just have a fresh server for PvE and PvP for both North America and Europe. Like, what you don't like money, Blizzard? Like, when did this happen? Summoning stones at dungeon entrances, yeah, this is fine. But there's also a correlation between this. So the summoning stones in the dungeon, in my mind, is directly linked to dungeon difficulty. Where is dungeon difficulty? Yeah, okay. So these two have a synergy together, and the reason for this is that you can complain all you want about how easy classic World of Warcraft dungeons are, but at the end of the day, if you stop and think about... One second, let me cough here. All right, there we go. Cover my mic, give it a nice cough. Take a drink of water. Drink and cough, boy. So you might complain that the dungeons in World of Warcraft are so easy, right? But at the same time, you have to realize why they're designed that way. Like, dungeons in World of Warcraft are designed so that you can four-man them. They're also designed so that if you're a competent team, you could technically three-man them. And the reason for this, and until you get into like BRD and all that kind of stuff, but the reason for this makes perfect sense when you realize there's no summoning stones. So it might take you half an hour to get everybody out. Hell, it might take you 30 minutes to get a group together. Then it might take you another 30 minutes to get everybody out there. And then it might take you another hour to complete the dungeon. Well, I'll say 40 minutes. 40 minutes to complete, well, it depends on the dungeon. And during that time, somebody might have to go, right? And so the difficulty setting basically has to, if you're going to make it so hard to get to the damn dungeons, then it makes sense that you would make the dungeons able to be four-manned, because somebody might have to leave from point A to point B. If you put summoning stones in the game, you make it far more likely that 5 men are going to be around, right, at all times, which suddenly it makes it very... having summoning stones but having the same difficulty of dungeons would be bad, is what I'm trying to say. Having harder dungeons with no summoning stones, probably also a bad thing. Having both is good, if that makes any sense. So yeah, so I just went through the list, and you can enjoy my thoughts on the matter, but if you want to, I don't think there's anything too spectacular or interesting there. Let's talk about me and TBC. So I'm still hell-bent on not playing TBC. Blizzard can, as usual, go F themselves. And but I do have some questions for you guys. If you've never commented on any of my videos before, you'll know that I almost never don't respond to a comment. I've got like a 99% turnover rate or something, unless you're just saying something simple like, great video, I love this. There's nothing to respond to there, so I usually don't respond. But if you ask me a serious question, I'll give you a serious answer on the comment section, and I might even try to rip your face off if I disagree with you. But I want to say something about TBC. So, yeah, so I want to know, because I can't find any videos on the subject, like, how are things playing out in TBC? Maybe I should get a hold of Talrain or the Discord channel and see what they think about it, but it's like, how's the economy going with the whole gold influx thing? What's the botting situation look like? What's the player numbers look like? Like, they have numbers for how many people are raiding in Karazhan and so forth and so on. And I'm very curious how that compares to classic World of Warcraft. How is the honeymoon period going? How is the leveling experience? How is the game now that the honeymoon experience is probably over, if that makes any sense, and the grind has kicked in? I'm just curious what your observations are on the subject. I'm also curious, like, how is Paladin PvP going? I know it's early phases in Arena and so forth and so on yet. Have anybody noticed that whether I was right or wrong yet about the whole wear plus healing gear thing for Paladins, even though the Arena gear probably isn't out yet? I don't really know. But I'm just curious, like, how it's going in TBC with Blizzard doing all the weird stuff that they're doing. And as for me and my channel in general, I'll probably be making videos when Classic World of Warcraft comes out again. Be making different videos than I made before. Depends on what changes they put into the game. so forth and so on. And as for me, what's been going on with me is I've been getting into the red pill recently. And you might not know this about me, but before I became a philosopher and before I started thinking way too much about video games and game mechanics and all that kind of stuff, one of the things that I spent a lot of time on was thinking about girls, basically, like, trying to suss that out and the whole dating thing for me and whatnot. So when I started delving into the whole red pill community, the manosphere, as they call it, which I've been doing for a few months now, I had a lot to say on the subject. So I've made a lot of videos on the subject. I've also tried to make them so I'm not swearing. If you notice, I haven't sworn at all in this video whatsoever, to my knowledge. I have that capability. I used to teach little children English, so I have that ability if I have to, even though I don't like it. I like to swear. So I'm going to try to not swear in those videos, but I'm going to start an entirely another YouTube channel where it's just me talking about the manosphere stuff and so forth and so on. And I'll keep you updated when I finally put those videos out. I've already recorded like 10 of them. You know me, I like to talk forever, and YouTube doesn't give you the ability to have like an hour-long video until you've made a bunch of little videos first, and you're proven. So that's a little rough on me. But I got some really good advice there. So if you're not interested in that kind of content or anything, I'm just gonna spit one out real fast here. So it's called the David Hume speed technique. And David Hume was a famous Scottish philosopher who was famous, among other things, for proving that the human sentiments existed. Because at the time, that the theory was that you feel the way that you feel about certain things, and you think the way that you think about certain things, because it's all in your conscious mind. And David Hume started pointing out some inconsistencies using basically a speed technique. And you can use this same technique to help you vet women, for the purposes of figuring out, are you dealing with a good woman or are you dealing with a bad woman? Like, what are her base characteristics? See if I can pull it up here without something terrible happening. David Hume speed, but maybe I can't find it, but whatever. So I'll just give you an example. So the primary example would be that you can let's say you ask a girl a question. Whoa, that's loud. Let's say you ask a girl the following question. You ask her, what do you think about what do you think about a woman cheating on her husband? Now, you might have noticed this about human beings, but you have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is constantly analyzing the environment and processing information from the environment, and then it's releasing chemicals in your brain to make you feel a certain way. And you as a human being, your conscious mind doesn't really have any control over this. That's why you can you can find yourself in these very conflicting states where you think you should feel a certain way about something. Yeah, I got this female trait tier list when I was talking about, like, vetting women for traits. This is technically my wife, if you're interested. These are my wife's trait tier lists. Or the traits my wife has, which is kind of interesting. But I vetted her 6 ways from Sunday before I married her. Happily married 10 years. You guys probably all know that by now. So anyways, back to the observation at hand. So, yeah, so you can find yourself in conflict with your emotions as a man because you'll feel very strongly about something, a certain way on something, but consciously you won't know why. And the reason for that is basically observating that your subconscious mind is responsible for dictating your emotions, but then you also have evidence to suggest that you can consciously rationalize through something and then subsequently, piss yourself off or make yourself angry or make yourself happy the more you're rationalizing about it. So it goes both ways. Both the conscious mind can generate emotional responses and the subconscious mind can generate emotional responses. But David Hume basically pointed out that this subconscious emotional reaction to things is far faster than the conscious mind's emotional reaction. Like it happens in a split second. It's less than a second of time before your subconscious mind has processed the information and is releasing chemicals into your brain for you to have an emotion. And the conscious mind is much more slower. You have to, like, your eyes roll into the back of your head and you have to think about it and so on. So how does this work for women? Well, you can ask a woman the following question, like, what do you think about a man cheating on her husband? And you can gauge the response. So technically you're asking her subconscious mind 2 questions. You're asking her, what do you think about a woman cheating? And then what do you think about a woman cheating on her husband? And what should happen, and this is exactly what happens to my wife every single time I ask her any question of this nature, every time I vet her, she's a virtuous woman, so we got it down right over here, is by the time I get out the word on her, like I'm working on her husband in that sentence. So by the time I get out the word on or on her, her face is already contorted, and her face is already contorted and cringing. And what this happens so quickly that you can tell that this is a subconscious response and not a conscious mind response. And this is very important for the purposes of vetting women, like vetting traits in a woman, because women are much more bound to their emotions than men are. They're much more emotional creatures. So even if you're having a fight with your woman, or you're having a fight with your wife, or whatever, and she's really mad at you, and she might be in a conscious mental state where she's okay with cheating on you, but subconsciously she just finds the idea of it disgusting. And that's what the speed technique basically proves. So what you would be looking for as a response in the woman under those conditions would be, I'm looking for them to cringe right after I say cheating on. Right? I want to see that reaction. And then by the time I get out husband, a fraction of a second after I get out on your husband, I want to see a double cringe. You know what I mean? I want to see the doubling of the cringe, because one should be bad and the other one should be even worse. Conversely, if I don't see anything, right? If I don't see the woman cringe to either one, but then I see the eyeballs roll into the back of the head, and then the woman starts rationalizing the situation, and then she eventually comes to the conclusion, or her face starts contorting with emotion as she's going through the rationalizations, I've gotten my answer either way, right? Because now I know that her subconscious mind doesn't feel one way or the other on the subject, and it's only her conscious, rational mind that is against theoretically cheating on me as her man or as her husband. And this is really bad. I'm trying to get through this, but apparently I need to drink water. Damn. But again, this is a really bad sign, because if you piss her off, that rational barrier is going to go away. And then there's no backup barrier of her just naturally, subconsciously being disgusted by the idea. And you can vet women for, what do you think about a woman, screwing over a man at a divorce? What do you think about a woman taking away the kids, and so forth and so on? And naturally, well, thank you. That's very nice of you. And naturally, when I vet my wife for this, her first thought is always towards the kids. Which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so I have a bunch of little tips and tricks of that nature. I got another one that is basically, the summary of it is that it's the observation that the vast majority of good characteristics that you'll find in a long-term partner in a woman show up in women who are not attractive, like threes and fours out of tens. Primarily because they can't play that game of attraction of as the manosphere would say, it would be hypergamy, and so they're forced to develop those traits and those skills that'll make them desirable to a man that don't deal with the physicality. And the only reason that so if you're looking for a woman with those traits, you're probably better off looking for them in threes and fours, and maybe you can find one in a fives. But in modern dating, the fives think they're sevens and the sevens think they're tens, so it's like, and I basically point out that there's a technique for doing that, where because the only real barrier you have, like, we've all met those girls who are unattractive, but despite being unattractive, they're amazing women in every other way. And it's like, damn, if this girl was just more attractive, I'd put a ring on that, no problem. But they're not. And so the only barrier between you and them from a long-term relationship perspective is the fact that you don't find them physically attractive. So then the question becomes, okay, what if you could do things to find them physically attractive? Now, on one hand, you could have them go to the gym, but on the other hand, conversely, you can just become fat and unattractive for a time yourself, and you'll watch your physicality of what you're attracted to and what you're not attracted. Like, literally put on 50 pounds of fat, and suddenly you'll find that over the course of a year, your body will adjust. This is exactly what I did. Your body will adjust to find less attractive women attractive. Then, of course, you can just go back to the gym, lose the weight, get attractive again, and for some reason in men, it doesn't readjust itself. You'll still find the fours attractive, like they're still viable as a sexual partner for you. And so I talk a little bit about that in one of the videos and so forth and so on. But the title of the series is going to be I got it right here. Let's pull it up here. The title of the series is basically going to be Red Pill from a Rational Christian's perspective. Because one thing I really despise about the manosphere in general is that they're talking a lot of crud about Christians. and it was really bothering me. And the experience of dating for a Christian and vetting women for a Christian is significantly more different than like some of their advice doesn't work for Christians is what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, they'll say, stay away from this type of girl, stay away from that type of girl, you know, blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, if you're following the voice in your head that we typically refer to as the Most High God, this is not how God operates on the subject of dating. He's going to want you to date the single mother. He's going to want you to date the woman that has daddy issues. Like, all the women they tell you to stay away from, the voice in the head will be like, nah, go date him. Because he's interested in you seeing firsthand and learning from it firsthand, you know, why it's good, why it's bad, you know, learn this, learn that, you know, so forth and so on, which is just something to observe. The other thing that I despise about the manosphere in general is they seem to all be stage one in their whole Christian development, which is basically, and I say this a lot in philosophy too, like, you know, Machiavelli and Edmund Immanuel Kant, and there's a bunch of other ones. Nietzsche is a good one as well, and Marx, Engels, Hobbes a little bit, I think, where rather than actually walking up to a Christian and asking them, hey, what's going on here, you know, blah, 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 they'll literally just stay, like, you know, like 50 miles away and examine it through a pair of binoculars. And it's so easy to see people who have never gotten past stage one in their examination of religion, or of the Most High God in general, that it's actually kind of appalling. Because if you literally just walk up to them and start having a conversation, you'll begin noticing other things on the subject. So, for example, I should have around here like a list of voice and head right here, where this is missing one technically, but like the sheer like this is what happened to me. I wasn't raised Christian, but eventually I was like, okay, well, I'm a coward and I'm an idiot if I don't go and do an investigation on this. And if you walk up to Christians and you start talking to them and you do an actual scientific investigation, you're very quickly going to discover that this is all it is. Like, everything here is basically all that it is. And it's like, okay, well, these people suffer from a voice in their head, and they attest that the voice in the head has the following characteristics. There's one that's missing from here. It's the A, B, and C thing. I colloquially refer to this as God being a bit of an a-hole. But basically, it has to do with God having your long-term best interest at heart, or more accurately, the voice in your head having long-term best interest at heart. Where it's like, if there's three options God can have, three paths God can send you down in life. And like, it's like, one is hell itself, you know, trials and tribulations everywhere, and it's just going to be a miserable experience. And then the other end of the spectrum is like, there'll be no obstacles or anything in your way whatsoever. It's like just smooth sailing. And then there's the middle path between the two, where it's going to be a rough time, but you're going to grow and mature and come out stronger on the other hand. You're going to win, but it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. The voice in the head can always be observed to send you down the middle path. It'll neither make things overly easy for you, nor will it make things impossibly hard for you. And that's a really important observation to take note of when you're a Christian, but you're doing the whole red pill thing, and you're trying to follow the voice in your head on the subject of dating women, which is what I did. Your experience is going to be that the whole don't date this type of girl, avoid this type of girl, stay away from that girl isn't going to work with the Most High God. Like, it just doesn't work that way. He's going to be like, nope, get out there, get on the front. Like, literally, it's going to be like, you'll be like, go date this girl. And you'll be like, what the heck? She's got all these problems. And you'll be like, nah, go date this girl. And you'll be like, well, okay, is she my wife? And you'll be like, no, but go date this girl. And you're just like, oh my God. So, yeah, I just had a lot to say on the subject. There's some other things that are really disconcerting about the manosphere. I think Abba makes some good points. This is Abba. Yeah, Abba makes some good points in this video. I think they hate on blue pill beta males a little bit too much, because most manosphere community is like, they're all in on the alpha male thing, and in my brain it's like, I got to make a video on this as well. Like, everything's a tool, right? I was just thinking about this recently, where it's like, everything's a tool. That there are times in life when you might want to be a beta male, And there are times in life when you might want to be simping. And there are times in life, most of the time in life, where you want to try to have alpha male characteristics. Like you get pulled over by the police, like at a police stop. Now is not the time to be alpha male. Now might be the time to be beta. Another example would be if you did something to piss off your wife and it was thoroughly your fault and she has every reason in the world to be mad at you, now might not be the time to be alpha. Now might be the time to be somewhere between beta or just a straight up outright simp. Other times in marriages, I will point out where it's like, if my wife is doing her job as my wife, as my Christian wife, and she's making it her business to make me happy, now's not, now might be a really good time for me to give her what she wants. And if what she wants and what's going to make her happy is beta male or simping for her inside the context of a marriage, but inside the context of her doing everything in her power to make me happy, this makes perfect sense, right? There's no reason I shouldn't reciprocate. If she's doing everything in her power to make me happy, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to reciprocate doing everything in my power to make her happy. Which brings me to the overall observation here, which is basically that, like I said, I have a lot to say on the subject. The overall observation is that I look at it as like tools in a tool chest, right? Where it's like, there are times in my life where it behooves me to be a beta, and there are times in my life where it behooves me to be a simp, and there are times in my life where it behooves me to be an alpha. And I should have the ability to do all of that. And then pick and choose how I manifest in my relationship or in the world in general as I see fit. Like literally use them as tools in a tool chest. Be a master of everything. And so I find it really weird when I delve into the red pill community when they talk about, you know, being an alpha and always being an alpha and never being a beta and kill the beta and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, whoa, time out. I'm pretty sure that if you're going to be simping for anyone in your life, it should be your wife. Like, she's earned that. But at the same time, she should be earning that, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I just got a lot to say on the subject. So anyways, I'm going to start up a video series on all that jazz. And you can check it out if it's interesting to you. And as always, I'll be making Paladin videos on this channel eventually when Classic World of Warcraft comes out. But I'm just going to end this video right here because, 40-minute video. Well, Pally Time 101. And just upload it to YouTube. And Day is full, boys.